Hello everyone, I'm Greg Weaver. Welcome to The Audio Analyst. Today's episode, a revisit with a reimagined classic venerated amplifier, was spurred by a viewer's seemingly innocent question. Quite simply, a longtime reader and viewer wanted to know if I still stood behind my unreserved recommendation for the Parasound Halo JC-1 Plus amplifier. When I thought about it and realized I hadn't listened to them in nearly 4 years, I decided that to answer accurately, it would make sense to take a second listen. If you subscribe to or are a regular viewer of the channel, the chances are quite good that you will be familiar with the name John Curl. Further, if you're seriously dialed in, you'll be aware that his initials, JC, included in the Parasound Halo JC1 Plus amplifier's model number, are in tribute to his remarkable work and contributions to this and other models in the Parasound product lineup. As one of the most accomplished and recognized solid-state electronics designers of all time, his work has resulted in some of the most groundbreaking and performance-establishing components in our industry's history. For a deeper look at his accomplishments and to learn a fascinating morsel of audio history that you probably are unaware of, please see my written review of this remarkable amplifier that appeared at Positive Feedback, linked in today's description. Though the Parasound Halo JC1 amplifier was officially introduced to the world in March of 2023, I had the opportunity to hear it first demonstrated by the late Bob Crump in the CTC Builders Room at the Alexis Park campus during the January 2002 CES some 14 months earlier. CTC Builders was an interesting audio product design team experiment that Bob had founded along with Carl Thompson and John Curl. And at CES 2002, Bob used 4 prototype JC1s to bi-amplify a pair of Wisdom Audio M50 loudspeakers. In later conversation with Parasound founder Richard Schram, he revealed that they had understood that because they had so much riding on the introduction of the JC1, they produced pre-production units identical to the subsequent serial production models to enable them to vet it against as wide a range of demanding state-of-the-art loudspeakers as was feasible. Those interested may see my conversation with Richard in episode 35 from January of 2021. Further, I spoke with Parasound's new CEO, David Sheriff, when Richard decided to retire at the end of 2022, with episodes 114 and 116 from March and April of 2023. All 3 episodes are linked in today's description section. It was in the early 1970s, while I was still in high school, when I took a job as a photojournalist at the local newspaper, that I could finally begin to afford gear that I didn't have to assemble myself. In those days, the relatively new Japanese manufacturer Rotel was considered to be an audio manufacturer that offered tremendous value for its price, followed soon by brands like Sherwood and NAD. By the mid-1980s, that value crown had been confiscated by ADCOM with the release of the Nelson Pass-designed GFA 555 amplifier. Can you guess what GFA really stood for? But Richard Schram's Parasound, founded in the early 1980s, started knocking on that door by the late 1990s and had usurped the performance to price value crown by the early 2000s, founded on the remarkable work there done by John Curl. The original JC1 was based on a complementary differential JFET input stage, followed by 2 stages of select push-pull MOSFETs, ultimately driving 9 pairs of the most powerful complementary bipolar transistors that were available in the early 2000s. The result was a remarkable accomplishment, an amplifier that yielded 400 watts into 8 ohms, 800 watts into 4 ohms, and 1200 watts into 2 ohms with no observable compromise. As well as the fact that its output stage was entirely direct coupled with no capacitors or inductors in the signal path to prevent any associated veiling and to assure its flat frequency response even down into the lowest frequencies. One of its principal strengths was that it was biased to deliver its first 25 watts of output in pure Class A. Now, this allowed for most of its output envelope, apart from demand for large bass transients, for example, to be contained within the Class A operational mode, giving it a remarkably sweet and engaging sonic signature for its time. This kind of biasing scheme, that of biasing a Class AB amplifier into Class A for the initial low power range, like those first 25 watts, often referred to as quasi-complimentary Class A or partial Class A operation, has become a pervasive choice among numerous amplifier offerings today. When introduced in 2003, the JC1s were $3,000 each. By the time the last one rolled off the Parasound assembly line in 2018, after more than a decade and a half of production, they were still remarkably fairly priced at just $44.95 each. The JC1 Plus was introduced in January 2020 at $84.95 each. Today, some 4 years later, after all the problems with parts availability and surges in costs seen across the board, they sell for just $1 short of $10,000 each. But what accounts for the plus in the current iteration? Today's JC1 Plus offers the same output power ratings, using 18 beta-matched 15-amp 230-volt Sanken 60 MHz bipolar output transistors in 9 complements. And while it still shares its predecessor's desirable ultra-high bias Class A AB operational trait, it is now user-selectable, offering either its first 10 or its first 25 watts provided in pure Class A, with full power rated down to 2 Hertz. Also new to the Plus iteration are circuit boards fabricated of FR408, a high-performance epoxy laminate material designed for advanced circuitry applications, an R-core power transformer for the input stages, and extensively augmented input board shielding, all implemented to improve high-frequency performance and overall signal integrity. The output power supply circuit board's copper traces are twice as thick now, and all internal audio signal path connectors are gold-plated. The JC1 Plus also offers a user-selectable gain switch, providing either 23 or 29 decibels of gain. As well as having both single-ended and XLR inputs, it includes integrated outputs for each input type to permit easy looping to facilitate bi-amplification applications. With updated auto turn-on circuits, including 3.5mm 12-volt trigger jacks, custom CHK Electronics Infinium speaker binding posts, and a front panel power indicator LED, the One Plus is available in either black or silver finish. All these changes have the One Plus dressing out at just over 83 pounds compared to the 64 pounds of the original JC1. As impressed as I was with this remarkable amplifier when it was first released, I was very curious to see how it stacked up against some of the very stiff competition I've used over the past 4 years. So after schlepping my True Life Audio SSP 350 monoblocks, coincidentally also just over 83 pounds, off my Grand Prix Audio amp stands with their optional formula shelves, I pulled my Halo JC1 Pluses from storage and reinstalled them. After about another 200 or so odd hours of run-in and settle time, it was time to see how they fared. As compellingly powerful, fast, and extended as the JC1 Plus recreates bass, and in particular the lowest 2 octaves, I have to admit that their stirring degree of performance in this frequency band could easily have me convinced that I was listening to considerably costlier monoblocks. Driving my Von Schweikert Audio Ultra 9s, which play comfortably down to the mid to low teens, they served up that range with a remarkably refined level of control, more than ample detail, and surprisingly faithful pitch definition. Their ability to convey bass weight and slam, to render concussive impact while maintaining their detailed and articulate rendering of this band was, well, exceptional. Not only did they have the power, resolution, and transient speed to recreate remarkable dynamic and realistic scaling of musical passages, but they also exhibited a similarly fine degree of definition and expressiveness of microdynamic passages as well. Given the exceptional performance offered with these characteristics, I'm happy to acknowledge that they best or easily equal many other similarly priced or even more costly contenders, such as the Constellation Inspiration 1.0s or the Passlabs XA168 series of monoblock amplifiers. As surprisingly exceptional and rewarding as its bass performance proved to be, particularly in its class, I was completely impressed with its mid-range performance. While admittedly not as compellingly rendered as is possible with the best of today's benchmark-setting amplifiers, such as the Valve Amplification Company's Statement 450i IQ Integrated, or their Statement 452 IQ Music Blocks, the AudioNet Heisenbergs, or my current reference, the True Life Audio SSA 350s, its mid-range envelope presents with unmistakable lifelike tonality and captivating texture, maintaining excellent detail while delivering remarkably full body and richness of harmonic bloom. Fundamental instrumental tonality and color are rendered with compelling, graceful realism. Their ability to recreate engagingly smooth, fluid, articulate, and expressive midrange gives the JC1 Plus a disarming and engaging sense of liveness, well beyond what I've experienced with other amplifiers in and even somewhat above the JC1's asking price. Treble is very well focused, detailed, and nearly effortlessly smooth. During my revisit with these amps, they never even hinted at any upper frequency dryness or etched sterility. Listening to the sound of struck triangles buried deeply within complex and layered classical recordings, or highlighted ride cymbals in jazz or blues recordings, I was consistently treated to generous detail, stirring attack, and an abundance of ambient decay, recording permitting. To be fair here, while the JC1 Plus's treble is quite delicately detailed, pleasantly resolute and open, and delivers good sparkle and shimmer in its class, I do find it somewhat wanting of the full measure of effortlessness and extension that today's absolute best amplifiers are able to reconstruct. And while falling somewhat short of delivering that sense of graceful effortlessness, that presentation of unfettered extension that allows listeners to perceive the air and space of and around instruments more subliminally and naturally, they unquestionably do a more than merely adequate job regenerating trailing ambience and decay. Their superior ability to resolve low-level spatial cues and remarkably refined transient precision, conflated with their markedly coherent voice and their ability to present a compelling degree of soundstage layering, of image specificity, size, and shape, is nothing short of extraordinary at this price range. Again, while not as precise in this regard as today's finest offerings, particularly in their absolute refinement of layering specificity image sizing and interrelationships, their ability to present instrumental locations as dimensionally solid and stable, with image sizes that are unquestionably realistic, neither bloated nor diminished, is again exceptional. Unlike a substantial number of other amplifiers in this class, I was never drawn to or even tempted to focus or speculate about specific individual sonic attributes, which speaks volumes as to the success of both their design and execution. Because they do not call any undue attention to themselves with any particular commissive or omissive behavior, I found myself routinely and readily given over to the power and persuasiveness of the musical message they presented. With this latest audition, I am pleased to say that I still find the overall tonal balance of the Parasound Halo JC1 Plus to be exceptionally even-handed, offering radiant, lifelike tone color and full, dense textures. Their ability to render such authentic timbre, instrumental bloom and body, their blistering attack and convincing weight, combined with delivering such a high degree of musical clarity with uninhibited ease, have reaffirmed my original pronouncements that not only are the Parasound JC1 Plus amplifiers overachievers that absolutely excel in their ability to regenerate music in an engagingly natural manner, but they arguably offer best-in-class performance. To recap, I've not heard any other monoblock entrant at or even close to this price that can recreate so many aspects of the sound of live music with a more authentic voice. These amps are magnificent performers in nearly every regard. Honestly, I cannot think of a pair of monoblocks that offer a view anywhere near this close to the top of the heap for anywhere near their asking price, making them an unprecedented value in today's amplifier market. As such, I am able to say that I still stand by my full and unreserved recommendation for the Parasound Halo JC1 Plus. Further information on supporting the channel with display advertising at my companion website, with a Patreon membership, taking advantage of my consultation services, or a one-time gift may be found in today's description section or at my website, theaudioanalyst.com. Please stay safe and keep the music playing. Till next time, cheers.